broker, coming to you live from Amped Realty headquarters here in Louisville, Kentucky. Continuing our talks with Todd at 12, or as we affectionately call them, the T3 on Tuesdays. So hope everybody's doing well and had a nice weekend, and hopefully you didn't get too hot with the high temperatures that we had. I got JC helping me out again, and today we're kind of talking about some myths that you hear when you become a landlord, and what you should ignore and what you should pay attention to. So we did talk about on one of our past talks, we talked a little bit about now that you've decided to move on to another property and you wanted to keep this particular property that you had your personal residence, you wanted to rent it out. Now kind of, we get into, what should you or shouldn't you believe? And I know JC and I were talking about a couple things, and you had some concerns, maybe some in your own experiences. What were we talking about again, JC? Help keep me on track here.
Yeah. So, and just my experience of being actually a renter, not someone who's renting out my property, I think you can relate both issues, both sides there. But say you are deciding to rent your home out to somebody, you decided that you're going to keep it, you can make it financially work. What do you have to be responsible for in terms of repairs, for instance? I know Some people have that in their budget to maybe be able to repair stuff, but sometimes it might be concerning to them that they're going to end up having to repair everything in the house. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a great question. When I had my rental properties, one of the things that I always laughed about when I got calls from a tenant was, my light bulb's out in my bathroom, I need a new light bulb. Well, light bulbs are kind of your responsibility. Really, when we look at those things, the responsibility for the repair kind of comes down to the tenant's health and safety, or the welfare of the people that are actually on the lease in the property that you own. So little things, again, like light bulbs, or little things like, a door stop that got, ruined in and out, being used over a period of time. Most of those small things are the tenant's responsibility. Now, obviously, if you have a major malfunction with an electrical or an HVAC or plumbing, that is something that you're going to have to take into consideration, and you may want to budget for those bigger ticket items. But again, there's, I've got some ways to show you to save a lot of money, some tips and tricks on that, you can literally save thousands of dollars on major repairs if you're a tenant, if you're a landlord and you have a tenant. So, there are tricks to doing that. Some tricks that are very good and don't cost a lot of money, but again, it can save you thousands of dollars. But you do probably want to budget for a few small things when you're getting ready to rent your property. But again, the smaller things, that's the tenant's responsibility. One of the things when you look at renting your property, if you are a single family rental unit, part of the property maintenance, such as the grass and the hedge trimmings and all of that, then becomes the responsibility of the tenant. You just need to make sure that you spell that out in your lease, as most tenants are aware that when they take on a single family home, they are responsible. If you have a duplex or anything higher, you're going to be responsible for that. So again, not every little thing takes into consideration, but the smaller repairs, you also want to look at what needs to be repaired. For example, if you had a situation where you had a couple that was living in there, a younger couple, heck, even an older couple for that matter, and let's say they broke up and one of them got mad and kicked in the door, even though that's more of a major repair, that still becomes the responsibility of the tenant that was there, not necessarily your responsibility. So again, smaller things that wear out, light bulbs and such, maybe a door handle that falls off, would more than likely be the responsibility of the tenants to take care of. Larger items, you're going to want to keep that in mind. So really, not too much that you have to worry about with regards to that. Does that make sense, JC?
Yeah, I know you just kind of mentioned, though, kind of an issue. Maybe the tenants are having issues, or even that might be
Sure.
somebody, something that someone's concerned about, someone's background history, what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, so with that, I mean, if you're aware of something that's happened or aware of someone's background, can you refuse to rent to somebody? That's always kind of a concern I know with people.
Well, and you bring up a good point, and that's another myth, is that you can't refuse to rent to anyone, even a felon. Here's the thing, you have certain standards and the people that you want in your property with regards to their work background, the financial feasibility and responsibility that they would have to bring to the table. You're perfectly within your right to refuse to rent to somebody that doesn't meet the criteria that you've set for this particular rental. Now, in order to be in order to avoid being accused of discrimination, um, you know, you need to make sure that you maintain that level and everybody stays on that same level. Okay, because if you refused one person that's had an issue, but you let the other person in, that could definitely come back to bite you. So you've got to be careful about that. Now, here's one thing that I do tell people is you definitely need to check your tenants very thoroughly prior to allowing them to sign a lease on your property. Um, if not, you may have to do more repairs than you thought. As we circle back around. But here's one thing that I will tell you. If you are a client of mine, of the Todd Martin Group and Addendums Realty here, if you've worked with me in the past, you bought or sold property, you're looking to buy more property, or you've got some rental properties that you're interested in doing background checks on, just simply pick up the phone and give me a call, and we offer that service for free. We don't charge for that, but we have the opportunity to do the background checks for we don't charge you for it, and that's a service that we've already set up that checks credit history, that checks whether or not they've been convicted of a crime, whether or not they've been expelled from a previous unit. So, again, all these things that you want to do, if you want to check them out, I would definitely make sure that you check that out as well. And the other thing too is that, when we kind of go back, and I'm thinking a little bit more about this, and we talked about, repairs, and we talked about, kind of how you're going to rent somebody and what to expect. And I think I even made a comment in the first section of, if it's a single family unit, you've got somebody that's going to be responsible for the yard. Kind of the third myth is that people think is that, they can go to like LegalZoom or get an older lease contract, an older generic lease contract, and that lease contract is just as good as a specific lease. I will tell you this: every property that you rent out, you may need to change your lease based on the type of property, where the property is, just to make sure that that property is maintained in the direction in which you want to go. So, just blindly using one lease and the same lease over and over and over again could get yourself in trouble, with respects to what's expected of the property. You can always draft an addendum you can use the same lease, but you can always draft an addendum to deal with maybe particular situations that you feel that might come up from time and time again. And that could have to be with, potentially smoking or no smoking in the property, pets or no pets in the property, paint colors, things of that nature, that could potentially help you down the road if things ever turn into not so good of a situation. So again, remember that probably a specific lease is much better than a generic lease. Or if you have a generic lease, make sure you put the specific addendums on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just in concern, I know we talked about maybe like the yard, mowing the lawn, or maybe it's like paying for propane, something along the lines, just something
Yeah.
random. What about like other people outside of the home? What about having neighbors that are noisy? Or I know there's sometimes people draft up stuff with quiet time agreements. Is that
Sure.
something that ever happens?
Well, quiet enjoyment or quiet hours. Your tenant is fully within their right to expect, you to do something about excessive or disruptive noise potentially coming from additional tenants. And I'm thinking more of along the lines of, sorry, not additional tenants, but maybe neighbors. I'm thinking more along the lines of like if you're in a particular condo where you share a wall or a patio home. It's not, and again, we don't know what the full situation is. Was it just a one night celebration or is it an ongoing thing? And usually, a lot of those, the only people that can address those in a homeowners association is the owner of the property. So, a good rule of thumb is no, you might have to help out on that, but it's not something where you have to go beat at somebody's door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, there's other opportunities that can help you out. For example, your local police, or have your tenants, keep a log of when the people were out of line. But obviously, sometimes you can have a phone conversation with the neighbors, and hopefully that'll take down some of the worry and the compromise, because they didn't necessarily know that they were being extremely loud. Maybe in their eyes, they were just doing their normal thing. So again, with noisy neighbors, even though it doesn't say that they are allowed to have quiet or enjoyable time or specific hours during the day, it's kind of understood. Again, it's one of these things that's very general in a contract, as somebody is paying rent and somebody's expecting certain things, which kind of leads me to kind of like the last myth that people hear is like, you're not allowed to enter the tenant's space. Now, that couldn't be further from the truth. As the owner, you own the property and you're leasing it out. But understand this, there are tenant rights and there are landlord rights. And you're going to want to make sure that you know which is which. Now, with regards to entering the tenant space, you can always enter the tenant space. Normally, it's within a 24-hour period. And again, that's can be very specific on how that's written in the lease. Okay, so if you don't want to give them 24 hours, you want to give them 12 hours as an example to get in the space, or they need to, for example, in a lot of my leases, I had if a tenant was going to be out for more than a week on a vacation type period, that would automatically give me the opportunity to go in and check smoke detectors and check for any potential damage. So, again, some of those things that you can write in there to help get you into the properties when and if you need to get in them. Now, if there is a threat of, for example, flooding or fire or some other natural disaster, you have the right, obviously, to go in there immediately and make sure that things are secure, things are safe, and it's not something where you need a time frame for permission with regards to getting in the property. But, really, if you just provide that notice, you'll be able to get in there to that property and take care of what you need to. And again, sometimes a phone call is just good enough to call your tenant and say, hey, JC, I want to stop by the property and make sure that, again, all your light bulbs are working. I got a bulk supply of light bulbs for my properties, and I just want to make sure that all your light bulbs are working. Is that okay if I stop by or check the smoke detectors? So do you see how that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to that, I think everyone's biggest concern is that it is their home. They probably have some type of connection to it, even though they maybe lived there before they decided to rent it out, or who knows.
Right.
So it's definitely something that's probably on the top of their mind at all times. They're probably worried about how well their home is being taken care of. So I think that's definitely a good and important thing to hit on. So
Well, absolutely, yeah. And you bring up an excellent point. As people tend to have a concern about who's going to rent their home and who's going to be in their home. Just want to let you know about something new that we're actually doing here at Amped Realty to take that responsibility off of the homeowner if they are choosing to rent their personal property, to purchase another one, or any particular, if they're trying to start their rental portfolio. One of the things that we can do if your property qualifies is we'll actually rent the property from you. Now, there's a few caveats that run along with that, but your property's got to qualify, based on some of the things that we're looking for with regards to renting from you. And, we'll take care of it. Obviously we'll sit down and have a conversation, and we'll be very specific on the terms, conditions, and how we're going to get that property leased and taken care of. But you don't ever have to deal with tenants directly yourself. We'll do that for you and help you out. And the good thing about that is that, if we strike an agreement and you're getting ready to move out, obviously we've got some time that we can work with, but we can also show a lease to the mortgage company that shows that you've already got income coming in and guaranteed to help you qualify for that next property. And earlier on, we talked a little bit about, bridge loans and things of that nature, and showing, that you've got additional income if you're moving up in space, or even if you're moving down in space and you want to keep it. So, feel free to reach out, ask us any questions. We're always here to help, always happy to help. You can reach us directly at area code 502-200-1980. Again, that's 220-HOME, H-O-M-E, if you remember that, or shoot me an email at todd@amped realty.com. And again, if you happen to know somebody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please don't keep us a secret. We are happy to help and always happy to chat. Make it a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.